Okay, Dick, so let's move into first impressions. What are some simple things homeowners can do to make the best first impression of their house?
Well, I think probably since most buyers within the uh, first time they see the house, so first impressions are very important. So, if you're selling a home, then I think you need to have your front yard landscape, whatever you might have there, clean. Some people even say paint your front door. Make the first impression the best you can. Um, so I think a lack of clutter, clean, um, pleasing to the eye. I think that's first impressions are really, really very, very important. They can be bad. They can be, if they're good, it's a good start. If it's bad, yeah, it's hard to overcome.
Have you heard about how homeowners will bake some chocolate chip cookies before they have
Some do,
people
some
come in?
do. Yes, you can, or you can a potpourri of lemon or something in hot water to make the house smell. Yeah, odors are very important. The house, talking about once you're in the house, but before you get into the house, you got to make sure that it's what they see when they drive up is really important. So you don't want a lot of clutter. You don't want a bunch of cars in the driveway. Um, you don't want anything on the exterior of the house to detract from, like peeling paint or just clutter or dirt. It should be pleasing to the eye. That's why I think painting the front door a nice bright color is important. And the hardware on the door being, nice and bright, because otherwise the first impression is, an old front door, sun bleached. It's a bad first impression. Once you're in the house, that's a whole different story. You want to ask me that question?
Yeah, I was just about to. So moving into the interior of the house, how much does staging actually impact a home sale? Do you think that's
Hmm.
necessary?
Well, I think let's move back a minute. Before you have that person walk into your home, you're going to be marketing the home. And I'm becoming a very firm believer that if you have a property online, which 95%, maybe 99% of all people who start their search start online, virtually staging the home is a really good way of making the best first impression that they see online. Um, if it's vacant, it really helps. Even if it has owner's furniture, hopefully by the time you start taking photographs, you've decluttered the property, and I think that's a good thing to talk about. But assuming you got rid of the pictures and the clutter, even partially staging, again, making it look as good as you can for uh, for whatever online search engine they're using. Once you're in the house physically, then staging it again is very important. If the homeowner is still living there, getting rid of the personal photographs, anything detracts from looking at the home. If there's lots of furniture in the living room, kind of declutter it again, get rid of extra furniture, which makes the home look or the rooms look larger. But there's a whole series of things getting your home ready to list that you should be doing um, in the first place. I mean, there's a whole series of things that the seller should be aware of.
So focusing on that interior again, what do you think are maybe the top three things that make a buyer the most interested inside of a home?
Mhm. Well, first thing you walk in the door, you want to see a light, bright interior. You don't want to have a bunch of extra furniture. Again, I'm repeating myself, but it's the same thing. You don't want to see a lot of clutter. You want to see cleanliness. You want a first impression. You want to see a neat property, free of any debris or um, it should be, it just should be as good as you can get it. Not sure I answered your question, but I think the first impression is very important, so you just have to make it something that is pleasing to the eye when they walk in.
So let's move to repairs and upgrades prior to that selling process. What upgrades actually add value before you sell your home?
Well, let me back up a minute from that question, because one thing a realtor will do, and you should, as a seller, ask him to do, or her, is to walk through the property and help you as a seller make those kind of changes that are going to be of value. Like, well, again, if there's a lot of pictures, which we always have of family, again, get rid of all of that personal property stuff, because it's a detraction. If there's peeling paint, get that taken care of. If it's dirty, clean it up, get it professionally cleaned. Windows are dirty, get the windows cleaned. There's a lot of things you can do that don't cost a lot of money. And so before you start making any changes that might be expensive, which I would hope as a realtor you would advise against unless they were absolutely necessary, is just do those simple things to put your property in order before you list it.
So
Ask your question again. I'm not sure I answered it.
what upgrades actually add value before you sell your home?
That's a very, very interesting question, because upgrades can be very expensive. And I think rather than, I always look at things on a return on investment basis. If you're going to add something, you want to add it such that you can recover the expense of whatever you're doing. And one of the things you don't want to do is make an improvement. I mean, everybody loves a beautiful kitchen, but that can be very expensive. The hard part about making any kind of improvements to a property is to do it in the way that a potential buyer likes it. Everybody has their own tastes. You can spend lots of money, thousands of dollars, putting in modifications that a buyer will come in and just take out. It might look pretty to you, but it may have no value to a potential buyer. So it's really important to understand that your property might be just good the way it is, and a realtor may be in the best position to help you evaluate that.
So you kind of already addressed this, but what improvements are usually not worth the money?
Gosh, there are obvious ones like, well, worth the money means, are you going to recover that in your purchase price? And I go back to those improvements that it might be remodeling kitchens or bathrooms, pool and spa, those kinds of things are very expensive. And really, if you look at what other properties are selling in near your home, it's best to understand kind of like what attributes they have that your house doesn't have, and maybe you want to match those. But otherwise, I mean, if nobody in the neighborhood has a pool, adding a pool that might cost $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 isn't necessarily going to get you recover that expense. So you got to be very careful.
So what are some smaller and less expensive changes with a good return on investment that you think actually make a big difference?
Well, again, street views are very important. Landscaping can be done. Obvious things like, it's the hot sun of the desert causes some areas of the home to take, like paint to be peeled. So that kind of stuff should be, should be fixed. Clean windows, having a deep cleaning of the property so that interior looks clean. Removing clutter again, that's the same old thing. Make the property look light and bright. so that when you walk in the door, they're not distracted by cobwebs or some other, lot of debris or something around the house. It doesn't cost anything.
So specifically, what rooms do you think sellers should focus on the most, and which one rooms are the most important for buyers when they're taking maybe a first home tour?
I don't know if there's a really succinct answer to that question. Kitchens are very important. Bathrooms are very important. Separation of, let's say, the master bedroom to the guest rooms are important. There's just a lot of different features that become important to a specific buyer. Buyer who wants a pool and a spa may want access to the home, maybe wants an ability to go to the pool from their living room or their bedrooms. Lots of different rooms have importance to specific buyers.
So
What? Go ahead.
Let me try, because I don't have a microphone, right? But I just
Speak up then.
Well, if you wanted to use any of this and re-answer a question, it might be. I bet you're going to totally get what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Two things that I hit up people for on a listing appointment is what is the condition of the hot water heater and the heater AC unit? And you know how in a lot of like Palm Springs condos, like especially
You're making a point. That's right.
You
That's
know,
important.
if you'll open up that interior where the heater is, there's a closet usually, like in all the Mesquite Country Club, they have that interior heater AC unit. If you open that up and there's all sorts of like drywall dust on the ground in it,
Yeah.
it's dusty all over it, and maybe even some cobwebs, I will clean that closet if they don't, because the difference on the shopper or the buyers when they come in, they'll look at that, and if they see it old and dirty and the tape isn't holding up good and everything, they immediately think, well, this place isn't well maintained.
Yeah.
But if they open up that closet and they go, damn, this looks good, this might be okay.
But
You'll see the shift in them right there. And the other thing that I'll do, I did this with Carol Deardorff's last listing that she had in there. Because she asked me to go in when she was kind of bedridden, but anyways, this won't be on the thing. The light bulbs, you had one of those old timey chandeliers over the kitchen table, which was just like a 4-person card table, almost dining room table, for it. And then you had a few lamps throughout the house. You didn't have the recess lighting, but in the recess lighting, if I see different light bulbs.
I agree.
You'll have the flickering yellow ones, and then you'll have the bright white or bright blue or
Yeah,
whatever
right.
that are in there, and then the same with the recess ones. They should all be the same 60 or 80 or 100-watt bulb that's in there. And again, it just gives that feeling like, well, this place is maintained, it's okay. They'll look at it and they'll go, yeah, I don't like the popcorn ceiling, but oh wow, this might be able to be worked with. And just get them to that little bit of an edge with those two things, I find is sometimes possible.
okay, well, let me ask a question then that you could.
If you like those answers.
Well,
So
those are specific answers. There are a lot of, go ahead.
I'm just gonna ask the question again, and then you can say what he said.
What's the question?
I'm just gonna ask like basically what he said, and then you.
Ask the question. Ask the question.
So besides what we just mentioned, are there any last big things you want to focus on that are relevant before you sell your home?
Yeah, a couple of things, I guess. Again, going back to clutter and cleanliness, there are certain rooms that seem to gather dust, and one would be there are some homes that have water heaters on the outside, which, because they're vented, have a tendency to gather a lot of dust. And so if somebody's walking around and they open that, they see a water heater or an HVAC system that has a lot of, it's just dirty. And it attracts dust. It's really good to just clean that. That's kind of making the first impression of a well-maintained property. On the subject of light and bright, making sure all your light bulbs are working. Make sure all the light bulbs are the same hue, same color, because some light bulbs are blue, some are clear. That just make sure that they're all kind of similar. particularly with recessed lighting. You can get a fluorescent bulb, if you have to have, again, in the 80s and 70s, that's what you had. And sometimes people put in whatever fluorescent bulb they have, so you have a flickering golden hue next to a blue light that's bright, and it's just again, it's a bad look and leaves a little bad taste in someone's mouth who sees it. So it's just an example.
So let's move forward into our next topic. How important have you found professional photos to be when you're selling a home?
I think they're absolutely necessary. I mean, some of us who are maybe amateur photographers, using some of the tools that are on board, might think of us as professional. And I think some of us maybe approach like that, but I'm a firm believer that a professional photographer who really understands their art can provide you with the best look of whatever property you have, whether it be a home or a condo. And it's just, and I'm kind of dependent on the quality of the photographer, because there are some guys that are out there that probably aren't any good. But if it's an excellent photographer, they're more like an artist. They can really show you the best part of it. And a nice thing about some of the AI tools we have, if they don't have, maybe don't provide you the best, you can improve it, which I've done recently.
Have you ever?
But I think it's essential to have excellent photographs, whether it be professional or, homemade.
Have you ever, the kids call it catfishing, have you ever got catfished by photos where the photos of the house look much better than the home in person?
Always. Yeah, but one of the things about virtual whenever you're using artificial means of improving photographs, you should really put a little label on the bottom of the photograph indicating to the observer that in fact you've messed with the photograph. Photoshop and other tools is such common use. You don't want to make it so blatantly better than the real property, because you're just going to get a lot of people who are going to be very unhappy when they see the property. So yes, I think I have seen that.
So moving forward to kind of focus on the Coachella Valley in specific, how important are pools and outdoor spaces in this market?
I think very important. People, particularly, I have a lot of clients, and most of us realtors in the valley have lots of clients from cold climates, Seattle, Portland, where it rains a lot, very cloudy. And it's a lifestyle issue. And I think maybe there are some who are in an age group that might find pool and spa not required and may look at it as an expense. But I think the majority of people move to the desert for that lifestyle. They come here as a lifestyle decision. So in many, many cases, a pool and spa is an important part of that decision, particularly a private pool and spa. I mean, you could have condos where you have, people have access to pools and spas, but it's a community issue. And some people want a private pool, so. But they do, I think pools and spas are very important. I'm not so sure about pickleball, but pools and spas are really important. Well, there's a certain, yeah. Anyway, and we'll go, pickleball is another issue.
Do you
I'm not a pickleball
prefer
fan.
tennis over pickleball?
Yeah, I do. Pickleball is, anyway, that's a different thing.
What are buyers in the Coachella Valley prioritizing right now?
I go back to, again, I think lifestyle is important. But if you're going to be buying a property in the desert, you want to make sure that it has a quality HVAC system. A lot of people, because of the HVAC system, it's very hot here, It could be quite expensive, so solar is becoming important to some buyers. What else is important? You know, Palm Springs prides itself on mid-century modern, where you have an indoor-outdoor kind of relationship, light and bright, and people like the ability to go outside and have al fresco dinners and
Atriums?
I'm,
Wet bars?
I'm, no, not wet, that's, I go to wet bars again. I'm not a big fan of atriums, although there's a lot of properties built in the seventies, eighties, where atriums were in fact installed primarily to bring light into the property. But I think what I'm thinking about is pool, spa, covered patio, where you can have outdoor dinners or cocktails if you wish. And just that desert outdoor living lifestyle, really important. I think it's important to Coachella Valley folks who come here from those, you know, northern climates that want the sun.
Mhm. So let's move on to begin closing. What do you think is one recent like home trend that you think sellers should skip besides wet bars and atriums?
Skip?
Yeah.
I wouldn't skip a wet bar, but what would they skip? What would they skip? I don't know. I think a lot of people who come to the desert don't necessarily want to spend a lot of money on homes that require major improvements. I think you want to be careful looking at a home that has a really old HVAC system without understanding it may cost you $15,000 to $20,000 to replace.
Would you say it's reasonable or unreasonable to maybe splurge on a house that has like a pickleball court?
Well, a lot of people like it, particularly if you're going to buy for short-term rentals, because there's a lot of investors and pickleball is being really very important. I have a couple of clients who, in fact, have installed pickleball courts in their rental properties in order to provide an attraction for short-term rentals. Private pickleball, nah, why do that? If there's access to both private, there's access in most condo communities to pickleball now. I'm not even sure, but maybe even some of the city courts have been converted to pickleball.
Yeah, they have at the Civic Center. There's a bunch of courts.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, that's fine.
What about like smart homes? Do you think smart homes?
Yeah, it's very important. Because technology today, you have smartphones where you can, not only for security reasons, but that's another reason, and a very important factor when people consider buying into Coachella Valley. I think safety is also another aspect of that. So you can do that in the form of a gated community, or you can, you know, you can have your private home taken care of with a private security system. But what was your question? I think
Smart homes.
smart homes, yeah. Well, technology is such that, I mean, most HVAC systems, window shades, door locks are all can be, and even if you have a camera installed in your private home, you can view that on your smartphone. So that's really important. It's a nice convenient factor for a good selling feature if it exists.
What is one small upgrade that can make a home feel very expensive?
I don't think I go back to the simple things that if you drive up to a home that is beautifully landscaped, the first impression is really important, and I think that adds value. I wouldn't do bedrooms or bathrooms or kitchens because that's expensive. Simple might be the changing your light bulbs, getting a professional window cleaner, or cleaning the property to make sure it's spotless. All very important things that don't cost a lot of money.
What is something that sellers think buyers care about, but buyers don't actually care?
Hmm. I don't know. I can't put my mind into all buyers. I don't know uh, I'm not sure. I mean, some buyers won't, I know there are buyers who, if somebody dies in a home, won't buy it just because of that.
Do you legally have to disclose of that?
If they die within 3 years, yeah. I think it's 3 years. Um, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. What do buyers, I think price is important. Location is very important.
I know you just mentioned bedrooms and bathrooms and not prioritizing like insanely expensive upgrades on those. Would you say that's maybe something?
Well, I think what buyers, it really depends on the buyer, but I can't generalize, but many buyers will not, I mean, they'll buy if it's priced right, they'll buy a home that's been totally remodeled, but they might come in and gut it just because it doesn't fit their taste. So I don't have a good answer to that question, I guess.
What is the most memorable home you've ever helped sell?
Boy. I still go back to the one I sold last year, even though it didn't have a sewer. It had that funky downstairs uh, uh, bootleg cellar. I love homes that are built in the prior to 1940. I love the style. And this home was built in 99. I'm not really sure. Records say built in 32, but I think it was probably built in 29. But it was a beautiful, beautiful home, hacienda style, beautiful backyard, upgraded pool, and it was just kind of funky. It was just a lot of fun. Wish I had that listing many, many times over.
So do you think those little quirks like that, like having like that house did like a little bootlegger's relic downstairs, do you think those are helpful in the market?
Oh, I don't know that particular feature sold the home. It was basically the hacienda style, and that was really the architectural style is really one of the most important things for many buyers. Many buyers don't like mid-century modern. They don't like the white walls and the light and bright. Other people just love it. Some people don't like a hacienda style because although it's historically very, I mean, it's just a very warm, inviting design, but it's darker, because they were built, it wasn't built before air conditioning, but they're not as light and bright and as open. So it's really, really up to individual buyers as to what is important.
So moving on to our conclusion, if you had to give your best-selling tip in one sentence, what would that be?
To a seller.
Mhm.
Before you do too much, get a realtor who understands your home's location and can help you make both the decision as how to price the property and what changes and improvements you should make before you put it on the market. Don't spend a dime until you do that.
Okay, well, thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you, Dick, for talking about that very important topic. If you're thinking about buying or selling in Palm Springs, be sure to reach out to Dick and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you, Haley.
I'm gonna ask you to ask him one more question. I almost jumped in earlier, and then we cut this in. Ask him how important solar systems are, okay, to homes, and electronics charging stations for cars.
Okay.
Have you had any customers where you've had those conversations?
I've had customers, well, go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah.
So currently two questions. How important are solar systems and how important are electric charging stations for like vehicles like Teslas and other electric powered vehicles?
I think in the Coachella Valley, where we are experiencing, 3-digit, it's very hot. All right, today it'll be about 100, I don't know, 110 or something. So solar is becoming very important, and you can get solar a couple of different ways. I think a home that's reasonably priced, that has a seller-owned solar system, is a great feature. In fact, many of the homes today that are being built come with solar. In some cases, it's part of the original price of the home. Older homes that have solar put on it are very valuable. It's a valuable attribute. It becomes maybe a little questionable if it's a not owned system and you have a substantial lease. Because if you lease the system, that's an obligation the seller has to take. But then it's a trade-off between what's the savings on electricity versus not having a solar system. As far as the charging station, seeing them more and more, even the condo where I live, one of the buyers, one of the owners installed a charging station. I wasn't there. One of my favorite places where you and I have gone, Legacy Villas, we noticed a whole bunch of charging stations there. So it's becoming more and more important. Is it something I've been approached with recently? No. But that doesn't mean it isn't going to become important in the future.
Would you say that's maybe a good addition that a seller should be looking into putting in their home before?
In my opinion, no, not yet.
Okay.
End.
It is.